Continuing on with our St. Patrick's Day celebration, we have the competitor to Guinness Irish Stout, the second Irish Stout, which has a really interesting story. So Murphy's Irish Stout, Alessandro, I don't know if you know this or not, they were actually bought by Heineken in the 1980s. And Heineken wanted to penetrate that stout market that Guinness had such a stranglehold on in Ireland. So Murphy's was a bit of a smaller brewer up in Cork, Ireland, as opposed to Dublin, where Guinness is out of. And they thought that they could position Murphy's a little bit to kind of take a chomp out of that Guinness market, which didn't wind up working. So Heineken kind of put the focus onto some other brands under their umbrella. And Murphy's kind of fell by the wayside a little bit. Not too many people talk about it, but it is a really good stout. And to continue on, like I mentioned, with our St. Patrick's Day celebration, we got our hands on some Murphy's. Alessandro's ready. I'm ready. We're going to celebrate. So today, we're going to be reviewing out of Cork, Ireland, Murphy's Irish Stout. Alessandro, how are you today?
I'm doing fantastic, my friend. It's such a pleasure to be here, leading up to St. Patrick's Day together and having multiple beers to lead up to St. Patrick's Day. So I think this is a cool concept. Another great introduction that Beer Bracket is doing here, I think. And I'm excited to try this because I haven't had it in quite a while. As you said, I think it's a great beer and has this interesting story. So it's going to be interesting to see how it does with our rating system.
Yeah, I've never had it in a can. I've only had it in tap a couple of times. And it was always considered kind of the consolation prize. If you're in a bar looking for Guinness and they didn't have Guinness, then it's like, they have Murphy's. That's at least how my friends and I up in Canada always kind of approach it. But it was always good. We're always surprised. It's kind of like, this is like Guinness, but different. And they advertise themselves as being less carbonated than Guinness. And they also advertise themselves as being a little creamier. If you read the official descriptors of it, they compare themselves to coffee. They say they're a little less bitter than Guinness. I don't normally associate strong bitterness with Guinness, but the fact that this is less bitter is interesting. So I'm excited to try this.
I took a Brian's advice on the 7th horse in the accumulator, and in it came 7. But like my Murphy's, I'm not bitter.
Should we, in the spirit of St. Paddy's Day, should we crack them open and get right into it?
It is time. Let's do it.
You can hear that, you can hear the widget.
Yeah, and funny enough, I was reading on the back of the can here, they call it the ingenious floating draught flow.
The floating draught flow.
Yeah, it says it right here. The ingenious floating draught flow.
Well, it is the nitrogen ball, the widget, so to speak, that we've seen before in the cans of Guinness Stout. So it is the same technology, and it's meant to give it that kind of frothy, creamy head that you get out of the tap in the pub. Let's pour them out. Let's see. Oh yeah, so you know what? They do say that it is much less carbonated than Guinness, and you can tell that it's less carbonated than Guinness because with the nitrogen from the widget, with Guinness, you see kind of almost like those waves of carbonation bubbles that are flying through the glass. You don't see that with this, so you can definitely notice the lack of carbonation in comparison.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, look at that. It does look like it has the same coloring, though. Cheers, my friend. Aroma, cheers. I will let you start. Let me know what you think of the aroma of this wonderful Irish Stout.
So I was reading the description a little bit before starting the episode. And as you said, it had that, descriptors being less bitter and less intense, like compared to Guinness. And I have to say, from the aroma, the first two elements that I'm thinking of when I put my nose in are chocolate and milk.
Yes. Yeah, totally.
And they're honestly quite pleasant. Like I don't get too much of the coffee, maybe a little bit on the edge at the very end.
Yeah.
But it is quite pleasant, honestly. I tend to, obviously, comparing it to Guinness is almost inevitable. It's similar, but definitely the chocolate at vanilla almost and milk character, that stands out compared to Guinness, at least for me.
Yeah.
I used to not like too much like sweet elements in beer. I'm starting to get like more accustomed to it. I still think that I tend to prefer a little bit more of the savory components. And if you look through, our reviews, that's where I tend to lean. But the nose of this, honestly, is very pleasant. I'm thinking like one or two. I think I'm going to lean, because the aroma is honestly very pleasant. I'm going to lean with the 2 on this, at least for the aroma. Like it's very pleasant. It's inviting me. I really want to get into that glass. So a 2 on this for me.
Well, in the spirit of the Fighting Irish, I'm going to disagree with you. And not just because you're wearing a Tampa Bay Lightning t-shirt, which I didn't mention to start with. I'm going to ignore that for now. But you nail it with the chocolate. For me, I mostly get chocolate. You mentioned the vanilla as well. In the realm of white chocolate vanilla, I'm getting that kind of sweetness. Oh my God, yeah, the chocolate is really, really strong. It's not coffee forward. I know they mention coffee a lot in the descriptors on their website and in their promotions. I do get a hint of coffee, but the chocolate is definitely much, much more forward. As compared to like a Guinness, I know a lot of people compare this to Guinness, I guess just for the sake that they're both Irish stouts. But this is very different from Guinness for me, because I'm not getting that toasted barley, that aroma that is so prominent. That's what makes Guinness so fantastic. This one is all about the chocolate for me, with that little bit of coffee as a finish. I love this. This is right up my alley. This is really good. As far as an aroma for a beer, I'm salivating right now. It's making me want to go in and take a sip. I'm giving this a 3 on 3. It's getting full marks for me for aroma. I'm really enjoying this. Well, let's go right in for the taste.
Cheers.
Cheers, my friend. Oh, nice.
Nice.
That's really good. Okay, go ahead. Tell me what you think.
So, first thing that comes to mind is you do get initial sweetness that you can kind of associate with that more chocolate. Also, but that's more mouthfeel, so I'm not going to talk about that. But just the sweetness is there. I don't get hardly at all any hops. Like I can detect them towards the end if I'm really looking for them. But to me, is really mostly the sweetness. It has a little bit of coffee character aftertaste, but that's, again, it's finished. Yeah. The pure taste. The pure taste is really more balanced to that sweetness and a little bit of acidity. I don't get bitterness too much. A little bit of roasted character. Again, I think it's a pretty pleasant, nice. I can't quite give it a 3, but definitely a 2 for me on the taste.
Okay. So everything from the aromas there, you get the chocolate, you get the vanilla. This goes into more mouthfeel, but you can tell that it's much less carbonated. And I mean, carbonation does factor into the taste a little bit. The carbonation is almost like a vehicle for transporting that taste over through your tongue, right? You get those same elements from the aroma. I taste the coffee a lot more. I get it a lot more in the taste than I do in the aroma. So you get the bitterness from, like, if you were sipping a black coffee, let's say, there's that little bit of bitterness. I can see what they mean about being less bitter than Guinness. It is less bitter than Guinness. It's much more forward on the chocolate. Get a little bit of that vanilla. So it's all in that sort of dessert category. One more to see if I detect anything else. And that bitterness kind of comes from the roasted barley, right? So you get that element is there as part of the taste as well. I'm really enjoying this. This is really delicious. I got no reason not to. I'm going to give this a 3 on 3 for taste as well. So it's 2 3 on 3s for me all the way through. So let's jump right into mouthfeel then. So what do you think?
So on the mouthfeel, it's probably where, again, we've said it. It's people compare it to Guinness because of the fact that it's Irish too. It's a stout and everything, but it is different. And I think that on the mouthfeel in particular, for me at least, is where it's really different, very, very different for me. You do still get the creaminess.
Yeah.
But I don't know how to better explain it other than the texture on your palate that it leaves after you've taken a sip. It has more of a sweet cloyingness, not in a bad way. It's just like coating your palate, like so, really silky. But it's completely different. Now, if I'm thinking about the two, so it leaves a little bit more of a sticky presence, which again, like sometimes I can go well with the type of beer, but again, like for me, it's associated more with the sweetness of the elements, and I tend to not like overly sweet beers. So that's the reason why on this, because of that, like slightly different mouthfeel, you still get that creaminess, but it's slightly different texture. I'm gonna lean on this more towards a 1 for me, because I don't really get like that same balance that I do get, like for example in Guinness.
Well, I never thought I would agree with somebody wearing a Tampa Bay Lightning t-shirt, but you know what? I'm going to agree with you on that one. I would compare this to chocolate milk, or even just milk in general in terms of a mouthfeel. That's what it feels like. When you said a silkiness, it does just have a very light creaminess to it, and it feels like you're drinking milk. There's no carbonation. There's very, very little carbonation there, which is one of the things that they are actually really proud of and that they promote in this style of stout that they've produced. There's little to no bitterness, so you don't feel that tingling on your tongue like you do with Guinness. So it's very just smooth and light, like drinking chocolate milk. So there's not much there. But on a mouthfeel, I'm looking for something a little bit more robust with some carbonation, either something that triggers your tongue, either with strong bitterness or some kind of element that stands out. This is obviously made to be really easy and smooth to drink, and they accomplish that. And you can tell in their promotional material on their website and so on and so forth, they promote themselves as being a lighter and less carbonated alternative to Guinness. And they accomplished it. But you know what? It's a 1 on 3 for me as well, just because there isn't a lot there. It's just like drinking a cup of milk. So that brings us into the finish, because you mentioned a lot about the finish and the taste. I think you have a lot to say about that. So go for it, my friend. What do you think about the finish?
So actually the finish is where I think this beer shines a little bit more for me compared to some of the other elements. So I know I went more with the 2 versus 3 compared to you at the beginning. But on the finish, I have to say it's very surprising, because it really evolves. And that's why like I was tempted to go into the finish when I'm talking about the taste, because it really changes and evolves a lot. Like, so you do get that initial chocolate milk creamy feeling on the mouth. Then you get that roasted bitterness from the coffee, like taking a sip of black coffee. And then you do get like the slight hop variation, then the sweetness comes back, almost a hint of chocolate, then goes back into that coffee. So it's quite layered, I'll have to say. Like, I'll give them this, like this is absolutely delicious as far as the finish goes for me. So for that is a 3 on 3, no doubt.
Yeah, I agree with that completely. You know, it's also interesting. I find the longer that it's been sitting out in the glass and breathing a little bit, the coffee aroma is coming out a lot stronger. So at the beginning, we didn't notice the coffee too much. Now, as soon as I get close to the glass and stick my nose in there, the only thing, I get coffee really strong right away. So maybe just had to breathe a little bit and open up. But, you know, just something to note. For the finish, yeah, I agree with you 100%. I'm going to take another sip just to refresh my memory a little bit.
Always. It's always good.
Of course. You get the bitterness from the roasted barley. You get the chocolate. You get those vanilla notes. You get coffee. And we mentioned that milkiness in the mouthfeel, and how you said how it kind of coats your tongue in like a sticky way and sticks around.
Yeah.
That stickiness allows the finish to just stay for a while. And that finish stays for a good, I'm still tasting it. So it stays for a good 5, 6, 7, 8 seconds after you take a sip. And it makes me just want to go back in and take another one. And not in a strong way, not in an overpowering way, but you just taste all those things. Coffee, chocolate, the slight bitterness from the roasted barley. All those just stick as a finish on your tongue. And it's delicious. It's amazing. God, the Irish know what they're doing with their stouts. That's a 3 on 3 for finish for me. Whew. You know, this is, for me at least, it kind of gently was approaching perfect beer territory, but not quite. So it lost it on the mouthfeel for me. But as an overall experience, Alessandro, what do you give Cork, Ireland's Murphy's Stout as an overall beer experience?
Overall, honestly, I've been thinking a little bit. I really think this lands right there for me on a 2, because it kind of in my ratings in between, like, is right there. It's mostly 2s, like 1, 1, 1, 3, so they balance out. So I'm going to stick with the 2 on the overall, which I think this is a delicious beer. I definitely would like to have it again. It has some elements that make it different from Guinness, and I think that's also the strong character of it that like sets us apart, because it wouldn't be, you know, if it were just trying to be like Guinness, it wouldn't be the same. Like, because it's so different, it makes it interesting, and I like it, and I would definitely like to drink it again.
Yeah, exactly. I agree. I like that they tried to do something different from Guinness. They wanted to set themselves apart with less carbonation, with less bitterness, and they wanted to go with a slightly different overall flavor profile with the aroma and the taste. For me, as an overall experience, I'm going to go with a 2. Same. It's for Guinness, that was a 3-on-3 stout experience for me. And there are other stouts that I really like that are 3-on-3 stout experiences for me. So this, in the same category as an Irish stout like Guinness, it has less of those things that I really like, such as the slightly higher carbonation with Guinness. I like that Guinness is a little bit more bitter. There's certain elements there that just make it the perfect overall rounded experience for me as a stout of this style. It's fantastic. This is really good. So it's a 2-on-3. All right, so taking all those different scores, Alessandro and I had slightly different opinions about this. So let's start with Alessandro. Tallying up all his scores, averaging those out onto a score of 5, he comes out to a 3.33 on 5, which on our scale is a great beer. So that came out pretty good for him, but for me, it was actually a little bit higher. For me, it came out to a 4 on 5, which was kind of where I was expecting this to land. And that comes out to an excellent beer in our beer scale. Alessandro, this was a pleasure. Again, I hadn't had Murphy's in a very long time. I've never had it in the can with a widget. This is really, really good, right? Like, this met my expectations.
For sure, my friend, like, this is a delicious beer. Sure, it obviously tends to be compared to Guinness, but it's its own thing. And like, I can totally see myself sometimes going in and say, like, I want a pint of Murphy's. It has unique character. It's delicious. And it was a pleasure to drink it today with you, my friend.
Always a pleasure. Guys, let us know down below, what do you think about Murphy's Stout? Do you prefer Guinness? Do you like that Murphy's is a little less carbonated, a little less bitter? What are you drinking St. Paddys Day? Do you go with the Guinness? You gonna get yourself a nice pack of Murphy's after watching this review? Let us know down below how you're gonna be celebrating. As always, if you like this video, give us a like. Subscribe if you want to check out the rest of our content. Take care, and we hope to see you soon.
Cheers! And never forget to close your St. Paddys beer brackets.
Oh, never forget to close your St. Paddys beer brackets. We haven't closed ours yet. We still have a couple of episodes to go before St. Paddys. So we're going to be closing our St. Paddys beer bracket together. It hasn't happened yet, but don't forget to close yours. Cheers.
Cheers.